Listen, I'm just going to put it out there. When you are facing the Reds and the Tigers, two of the going into these series as the teams on pace to pick first and third in the MLB draft, you can't win 1 out of 4 games. You just can't. It was a weird series. We're going to discuss what happened with the Tigers, the makeup to game, roster moves, all on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, man, do not have this as close as I would like it to have. Want to make sure that we are getting good volume and sound. I want to thank everyone for watching and or listening to Locked On Guardians, brought to you free and available every day, wherever you get podcasts. I want to thank you for making it your first listen. I'll advise you to go check out our friend Jeff Carr, who we did the crossover with on Friday, as another Locked On podcast to listen to. I also want to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I've been the host of Locked On Guardians since its inception, all 700 episodes right here. I've had some great co-hosts like Pat. See, his skin race say Pat's name, and so I made it co-host. Like Pat Ellington and Caleb. I'm blanking on his last name right now. Sorry, Caleb. But, who brought a lot of great insights and knowledge to this very show. But right now it is me. Before this, I was a lead prospect and draft analyst for Scout and 24/7. And before that, I appeared on pretty much every single Cleveland sports blog you could imagine. We're going to talk about the series. We're going to talk about some, roster or things going on. Can we just first get into the fact that, again, they face some really teams struggling, very much struggling, and they won the one game that I was most convinced they would lose. The one game, I was like, okay, this is setting up for them. Because, and if you look at that one game they won, the 6-1 affair, I mean, Tarik Skubal was still excellent. 5 innings, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks. There's a reason why I think he might have the highest WAR amongst starting pitchers in the American League. If not, he's definitely top 5. He has been amazing. So, of course, that is the game they managed to win. The one game they probably should lose is the one they win, and they lose the 3 they should have won. It's a little bit of a frustrating week because this team is just so streaky, and that's the way it's going to be with a contact-heavy team. If you've listened to me on this podcast for years, you know that I've talked about the fact that when you are contact-based, the thing with contact and excuse me, no. See, back in the day, I could pause it, cut that, and then come back in, but I can't do that with the video format. So now you get random coughs. You get a little bit more truth behind the scenes. But, when players are contact heavy, there's going to be bad luck stretches. There's just no other way around it. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that. We've seen a lot of dropping of OPSs. We've seen a lot of players struggle over this past week, if we are being honest with ourselves. And I don't know what the honest answer is. I think it's interesting that they moved Quan down to 8th in the lineup and then gave him an off day, he had an off day and then he batted 8th the next day. They're still not really set or sold on this outfield, I think, in its current form. And that's the thing, even when Quan was excelling, I still stand. I think he'll be like a 110 runs created plus, and with his defense, a 3 to 4 win player every year. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I just can't get past the hype where when Fangraphs gave him an 80 future hit tool. Let's say he has a Hall of Fame hit tool. I'm like, you're saying that's Tony Gwynn. That's just crazy talk. And that's kind of, I think, going to be part of the problem right now with Stephen Kwan is the hype. And I'm as responsible as anyone else. I was loving the, as someone who does a daily podcast, he was fun to talk about. He was setting records. He was taking the league by storm. He had the greatest debut a hitter has ever had. But it set up some really unrealistic expectations, and that's where I'm concerned going forward. But let's talk about these games. I mean, should we I guess we do it normally. Let's just do how we normally do. Let's talk about the Friday affair. Let's look at this one. Who reached base twice in this game? Well, the upside was a lot of people. And again, it was all against the bullpen. That's, the Barnes and Foley, the Guardians beat them up. Straw reached base 3 times. Rosario reached base 3 times. Rosario and Ramirez reached twice, and then I believe that's it because they didn't have a walk in the game. That is one of those interesting things. They ended up with 6 runs on 10 hits, no walks. That's an unusually high amount. They really were able to put things together. Now, of those 10 hits, you had 5 of them being extra base hits. That helps. That's one of those reasons. But for 10 runs, you're typically looking at closer to 3, or 10 hits with no other additional ways of reaching base. That's closer to 3 runs. They had 6. On the other side of things, 3 hits for Detroit, 1 walk, and the error. That's 5 opportunities. That's, 1 is all right. If your things are going well, you're hoping to be closer to 3. Just 1 extra base hit by them in this one. Civale with his best start of the year. I know I've been Mr. pounding the table that he has been awful, and he has been. But 6 1/3 innings until he strained his butt. Let's be honest, that's what he did. He strained his butt muscle. We can call it his gluteus, but the truth of the matter is he strained his butt. So he should be back fine. Hopefully that's not something that will take him too long. But he's got 6 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. And I believe was in the middle. He didn't even finish pitching to Spencer Torkelson when he had to leave this game. So he has a fantastic outing. 1 run unearned. Though it's always weird because it's I believe the 1 unearned run is because of his own fielding error. There's a part of me that's always thought, well, if you caused the error, it should still be charged to you. De Los Santos and Yel came in 1 2/3 innings, 2 strikeouts. Class A, 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. Strong performances all around. Civale gets one of our 3 stars. That is a no doubt about it. Jose Ramirez gets another 2 hits, a home run, and a triple. That's a great play. And then for me, I give it to Straw with the 3 hits, one of those being a double in this one. Those are the 3 stars of this first game in the series. Let's take our first break here. We'll come back, talk about Game 2. We'll talk a little bit about Shane Bieber in Game 2. And we'll talk about the return of Josh Naylor as well and how they did the roster gymnastics to get him on the roster. All after this break. And that first sponsor is my favorite sponsor. That is BuiltBar.com. By now, if you've listened to the show at all, you know I love Built Bar. I have gotten listeners hooked on Built Bar. Everyone who tries Built Bar loves it. I have not had anyone come back to me and be like, I hate it. Right now, they have a special little deal, too. I talked about how much I love the Puffs. You can get a Puffs mix box with churro, which I love, banana, which is solid, and coconut marshmallow, which I also love, for $3 off. Plus, normally with those deals, you can then use the promo code LOCKED15 and get an additional 15% off. You can save up doubly on a deal like this. Go to BuiltBar.com today. The Brownie Batter Puff is currently back. The Birthday Cake Puff. There is always a fun new flavor dropping all the time. And I'm going to tell you again, granola is my favorite. You want to go check that out when you get a chance. You can also check out the broths and the Built Boost. I've done both of those. The Built Boost, I've talked about many times. The original, if you tried the original formula, not so great. The new formula that they started after the first year is fantastic. You should go check those out. And the broth was solid. It was just a nice, solid, if you sat there and got, chicken cubes and made soup. I'm sure we've all done that at some point in time, especially when you're feeling under the weather. The broth was perfect. Go to BuiltBar.com today. Check it out for yourself. Remember, that's BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCK15. I just love it. It's an A in my health food app and an A in my heart. So let's talk about Saturday's game. Rescheduled to June 14th. And that's really all there is to say. That is their 6th rescheduled game or postponement. They've had 17 games, 6 of them weather-related postponements. This has been the situation where it's my goodness, they need a dome. If any team needs a dome in Cleveland, this is the one. It's a bit ridiculous. Now, this, we already talked about the Friday game and what went on. So the roster gymnastics, let's start there. Josh Naylor activated from the COVID list. That means someone has to be let go. Who they let go? Luis Oviedo. Now, this makes sense. Why does it make perfect sense? Well, to claim him after the Pirates let him go, roughly half the league passed on him. So you're just playing a game of gamble. Is the second half of the league going to claim him, or is he going to pass through waivers? And he passed through waivers, so now he is off the 40-man. They don't have to worry till next offseason if a team would like to gamble on him if he does anything to look really good during the season. But yeah, they were able to pass him through waivers. They're still currently at max. They're going to have to go figure some things out when guys get healthy. Morris and Vargas. But outside of that, we're just kind of holding at a strict 40 at this point in time without too much information on those two other players. Today's game. As someone who has been an Alex Faedo stan since, so Alex Faedo was considered a potential top overall pick after a sophomore season in Florida. He had a down year during his junior year, but his slider was one of the best I've seen scouting the college game. He fell to the teens, I want to say, when the Tigers got him, and I loved that pick. I wrote it up very, very high. I mean, I still kept him in my top 10 players in that draft class. And he struggled with health. He struggled with injury. Well, health and injuries are kind of the same thing, but you understand. He's had his struggles. It's another good start for the young kid, so I like seeing that. Andrew Chafin, the Ohio kid, comes in, pitches well. It was a good day for them. Bieber had one of his better starts of the year. 2 walks, 6 hits, 3 runs, only 2 earned. He struck out 10. I also feel like some of the advantage of this is he faced a Tigers team that is not playing well. That's just the truth of it. His velocity was still in the low 90s. It's still down. His velocity is not rebounded so far. He's a little bit better, but still in almost 2.5 miles an hour lower than where he was during the strike season or the COVID season. This is the strike season. So it's just, I don't know what to make of it. I still don't know exactly what's going on here. I know everyone's quick to jump on the sticky substances, but you knew who used sticky substances. I never really heard Bieber connected to it. Maybe I just didn't hear. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's one of those things, but I knew when guys made sudden jumps in the minor, and a lot of guys do in this minor league system. But there's kind of the difference between the guys who make a jump when they first get here or in the first few months in Cleveland or in that first few years, as opposed to someone like Karen Chalk, where it's year 2 when he makes the jump. He's had 2 full minor league seasons before that happens in the 3rd season. It wasn't Bieber. I mean, Bieber moved through the minors so quickly. They did a few things, and he was just going. So I still don't know. I don't feel comfortable right now with what he is because I don't know. I still feel like there's some injury risk. I don't know what is going on with Shane Bieber. It's still the great unknown. So who reached base twice in this one? Well, Jose Ramirez had 2 walks. Josh Naylor had a walk, a hit batter, and a home run. Everyone else freak out like me. So if you missed it, he gets hit on the elbow, and he runs down the line screaming. I'm like, oh, God, did he just shatter his elbow? This is just perfect. Because there's a 99-mile-an-hour fastball from Gregory Soto right into the elbow. And I'm like, oh, God, he just shattered that elbow. He just broke his elbow. He is running and holding it and screaming. He ends up being fine. He stays in the game. It just must have got him on the funny bone instead. But the initial reaction, who else out there like me, freaked out. Until you're like, okay. Oh, deep breath. We can't afford to lose Josh Naylor right now. He's another, home run number 6 today. What an early season for him. I thought this game was going to get tied up as well when Franmil Reyes is Franmil Reyes leading the league in home runs that are 1 foot short. I feel like if we had a category home runs that were less than 5 feet for hits, outs that are 5. Man, I can't speak today. Outs that are 5 feet away from being a home run, Franmil Reyes would be there. He got a hold of one in, was it the 8th? Or it might have been in the 9th after Naylor got plunked. He ends up going 0 for 4 today, but it's you go back to that Wednesday game. Was it Wednesday? Thursday game against the Reds. I thought he got a hold of one there. They are just shot. It's Franmil, just eat a few more Wheaties. Go, do a few more lifts. You're so close. I'm curious to see if his exit. Let's pause it and let's see if his exit velocity is down this year, because it feels like it. He feels like things are just barely shy of getting out. The answer is no. His average exit velocity is 99th percentile. His max is 89, which is a little bit lower. His hard hit is 95. Those are, good numbers. He's actually at a little bit better than his 2021 pace in both those areas. So that's obviously not the answer. That's not the thing of what's going wrong here. I don't know if it's weather related. I'm not sure what it is. But he has so many that are just I wish, if I could change the spray chart over here to say outs, I'd be very curious to look at, because it's so many that are just barely outside the zone. He's just barely missing at a lot of pitches right now. And if I go look at like his 2021 data, it's like, I'm just trying to see it's like the expected batting average, and he's just not barreling quite as well. I mean, you look at the data, and it's essentially that he's just not making contact as well as he did before, and that drove everything higher. And he walked a little bit more a year ago, walk percentage. He always struck out a ton. You just had to deal with that. But he actually has a pretty low chase rate. So, yeah, there's no easy fix for Franmil, just like there's no easy fix for Shane Bieber. It'd be nice if we could just point at one thing with each of those guys and be like, oh, that's the case. That's unfortunately not how this has gone. But, I mean, Franmil very nearly tied it up. And then the ball just died like a duck at the warning track. We already talked about who reached base twice. Shaw came in and gave up another home run. His ERA is approaching 6. I mean, he's not good. He's just not. Like, we knew he wouldn't be, and we knew it was smoke and mirrors early on, and it stayed that way. Sam Henches, I don't know why they've not been using him of late, other than like you've had, only some of the coaching staff here. Henches had a great 8th, 9th inning. Unfortunately, the Guardians had some opportunities to come back in this one. They did not. They drop it 4-2. I mean, if your starter goes 7 innings, strikes out 10, and gives up 2 earned runs, he gets one of the stars. Like, that should be it. Naylor gets the other one. And then I know Owen Miller had an opportunity, but he's also the only person who had a multi-hit game, so let's give him the 3rd star in this one. But, yeah, it was not a fun-to-watch weekend. Not fun to watch baseball of late for the Cleveland Guardians, just because it's been so inconsistent. Kwan's now hitting 267. We talked about like his struggles. Franmil leading the league in almost home runs, is batting 198. Hedges is at 170. And batting average is far from the end-all, be-all. But at the same time, it's like, why is Andres Jimenez hitting 7th? Like, my goodness. Like, talk about bad roster construction. I know Ahmed Rosario had 2 hits the day before. But you know what? For whatever reason, Jimenez, you gave him the off day. That's why he didn't play. Stop batting Rosario too. For the love of God. He has been one of your 3 worst hitters this year. Stop putting him in the 2-hole. Just stop. Stop trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen. Maybe put your best hitters higher in the lineup. It's the most important spot in the lineup. And I know Jimenez went 0 for 3 today with a strikeout. He got beamed. That was his one time reaching base. And Rosario had a hit and he scored a run. But like, you're a better team if he is batting 2 and Rosario is further down. Flip those 2 guys, please. Please flip those 2 guys, especially like, if you want to flip them back and forth, lefty-righty matchups, that's fine. But this wasn't that. This was just questionable coaching call. Then again, technically result-wise, Rosario had the better day, but you want your better hitters closer top. You want them getting more at-bats. What is my ideal lineup right now if everyone's here and healthy? That is a very good question I'm asking myself. I mean, I'm very, very tempted to say Rosario or Jimenez has decent foot speed. Have him at 2, have him leading off. And then, Jose too. The statistics say you want your best hitter there. 3 Naylor, 4 Miller, 5. I'd probably still stick with Franmil just because there's not much else to go there right now. Probably him at 5. 6, I would do Kwan. 7, Rosario. 8, Hedges. 9, Straw. Straw has those good games, so he's still at a 665 OPS. He's got no power and his on-base skills. Like, he's going to be a step below average. Like, at his best, he is probably about a 90 runs created plus. So, again, it's not to, like, crud on him. He is what he is, and he's good at what he does. He's a plus-plus defender who's almost a league average bat. One can make a case for having him 1. I can totally get that. And then you put Jimenez 2, Jose 3, Naylor 4, Miller 5, Franmil 6, 7 Kwan, 8 Rosario, 9 Hedges, or if you want to do the speed swap thing, like Hedges 8, 9 Rosario. Or heck, if you want to, that bottom order doesn't matter right now because Kwan isn't playing well. So you can do those three in any order you want. But this team is still very flawed. And that's the thing. Like, they're 17-20 after that loss. They're third in the Central. They've had great stretches. They've had miserable stretches. This is a in-between year. This is 100% an in-between year for them. They're going to see how the young guys develop. They're going to continue to move things forward. I still think, like, Rosario is, if he has any trade bait, he becomes prime trade bait. If he plays like this all year, he might not, they might designate him for assignment. They may decide not to pay him what he would require in arbitration with another raise. I mean, there's we assume he will play a little bit better and there will be some trade value for him, but yeah, I mean, they got to see what's going. George Valera had a 2-home run game last week. He's starting to play better after his early struggles. Nolan Jones, we still don't know when he's going to be healthy. It's a bit of a disaster. I wouldn't say it's a disaster. That's really unfair. It's a gap year. I mean, this is what it is. It is a gap year. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. They could maybe contend for it, but they're probably not going to get there. They are going to see the young players that can develop. I mean, if you go and look at Fangraphs, like, I go to Roster Resource, look at their top prospects. There is one who's in A-ball. Everyone else is AA, AAA, or the majors. This is a team where the talent waves are starting to hit this year. So this is the gap year. This is them seeing what they have and trying to figure out where they are from there. Let's take a quick break here, come back, and talk about what could be a tough upcoming, well, not could be, what will be a tough upcoming series against the Houston Astros. I do want to apologize if you have Screaming Baby in the background. He is 2 floors up, but he is teething. So, life, as it were. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Guardians their first listen, free and available today, wherever it is that you get podcasts. And remind everyone to go check out the Locked On Now podcast. You can hear me on there most days talking about the Cleveland Guardians. That's why we do those quick now videos. You can go and hear my discussion about all things daily, the Cleveland Guardians. So, Houston. Houston is a good team, currently leading their division by a game and a half, 27-15. They're one of the top 5 teams when it comes to pitcher development, and it shows when you look at who Cleveland will face with Luis Garcia, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier. It's solid. It's a good rotation. Obviously, this is where Miles Straw came from. It's where we have benefited. And it is, they just do a nice job in general with development. Like, I remember watching Jeremy Pena when he was at Maine. Now, obviously, via video, I didn't go to Maine to watch him play. But I remember watching him play and thinking, okay, well, there's obviously tools here, but he's never going to make enough contact. This just isn't going to happen for him. And he's playing, he's right now your favorite for Rookie of the Year. For all of our joking about Stephen Kwan, like, it's not even close. Now, Pena is got a BABIP, but with his speed, like, it's high, but it's not, like, that high for his speed, so we'll have to see. It's like, yes, and son of former Guardian Tony Pena, but, they hate him. You can. They cheated. It's there, and they probably cheated when the Guardians had maybe their best opportunity to win a World Series and got buzzsawed by Houston the year they won. Right? Wasn't that the year they won? Or was that the year the Astros beat the Yankees? Either way, they got buzzsawed by the Astros likely during a season when they, even if it wasn't the year, it was probably still another year where they were doing things they were not supposed to. So I'm totally fine with any dislike for them, but it also has to come with the whole thing that this is indeed a very strong baseball team. So let's start it. Catcher for them, Martin Maldonado. They are another team that goes defensive specialist. Maldonado has been worth negative 0.3 WAR because he's been so bad. He's got a 36 runs created plus. If we hop over to Cleveland, Austin Hedges, why can I not spot him real quick here? Hedges is at a negative. He's actually at a positive WAR because he's a better defender and he's actually a better hitter. You didn't think we'd say this, right? But this is a case of 2 teams that value defensive catcher above and beyond anything else. For instance, if the Guardians, when Hedges walks in free agency at the end of this year, Maldonado is 30, will turn 36 this year. I would not be shocked at all if the Astros go out of their way to sign Hedges. He is their type of catcher, and he'd be an improvement. Cleveland actually wins the catching position. Moving on to first base, Yuli Gurriel is the first baseman for Houston this year. And over the course of this year so far, he has, I was trying to think, is he the one that production has been down on? So Yuri Gurriel. Why is it not? You gotta love when data is not appearing how I want it to appear. So he's at about league average, a little bit below that. And then for Cleveland, their everyday first baseman. Do we assume Miller? Do we assume Naylor? I'm more inclined to believe that we'll see Naylor playing there. So that'd be 2-point advantage Cleveland. Third base, advantage Cleveland. I don't, Bregman's good, don't get me wrong, but the best third baseman in baseball resides in Cleveland. And let's see, Bregman's got a 124 runs created plus right now. Jose Ramirez is at a 181. He is still utterly dominant. 3-point advantage Cleveland. Let's end it there. So, shortstop. Cleveland's shortstop, the person who's played the most games there in the last week is Amed Rosario. We talked about how well Jeremy Pena is playing. That is advantage Houston. Moving to second base, where in this case we would say it's Jimenez, and over for Houston, their everyday second baseman has been Jose Altuve. So Altuve is rocking a 167 runs created plus. He is having a very strong year. Jimenez has been great, but his runs created plus for a counterpoint is a 148. So strong. He's been worth 1.4 WAR, as has Altuve. It is an advantage to Houston right now. I'm gonna when they're when they're near each other in production. I'm gonna go with the player who has the better track record. So that gives them both infield spots, and then we're essentially a 1-point advantage for Cleveland going into the outfield. Chase McCormick is who took over for Miles Straw out there. He's at a 106 runs created plus, but he has negative defensive value for a 0.3 WAR. On the other side of things, Miles Straw is at a 1.2 WAR thanks to his defensive value, and he's at a 108 runs created plus. So that is advantage Cleveland. Straw is still better than what they replaced him with. Moving to the corners, Kyle Tucker is played the most games in right field for Houston, and Cleveland's right fielder is, I guess technically we go with Steven Kwan right now because he's got 3 games there as opposed to 2, though it's like 3 for him and 3 for Mercado. I'm realizing, like, when I set it up this way, okay, so I think what we expect going forward might be what happened today. So if you look at what happened today with Owen Miller at second and Jimenez at short, does that shift anything? I don't think. Like, Jimenez has been great, but Pena has been slightly better. Like a 1.8 versus a 1.4 and a 1 point higher runs created plus. So you probably still favor them. And Owen Miller at second base, he's at a 146, so he's actually a little bit. So it's still advantage if you list both of those players. It's at shortstop and second base to Houston. Cleveland has the 2-point lead going into the corners. Steven Kwan has struggled. Kyle Tucker's been productive, so that's advantage. And then left field is Michael Brantley, who has continued to be Michael Brantley, and Cleveland. Whatever combination you want to put between like left field. If you want to make it Rosario, it's like still clear advantage Houston. So it's tied up, moving to DH, where Jordan has been one of the best bats in baseball. Advantage Houston. But I think it's surprising. Like, I know the offense is come and gone, and it's been highly ranked at points, but still, Houston is a top-end offense, and Cleveland has 1 spot behind. Starting rotations advantage Houston. Fromber's been great. Verlander is apparently just never going to age. Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, these guys have been good at points. Oh, 1 second. Sorry about that. Had to take a parenting break there. It's 10 o'clock my time. My daughter is going to be exhausted. So when you go and you look at performances, Framber's been worth 1 WAR. You just look at something like FIP, which again is the best indicator. Verlander 278, Framber 312, Odorizzi 3.41, 4.02 for Luis Garcia, 3.09 for Christian Javier. That's fantastic. If we go over and look at the other side of that, Cleveland's FIPS, 297 for McKenzie, 372 for Bieber. Quantrell's at a 348. Now we dig. Civale is at a 493 and a 501 for Plesac. Like advantage in this series when you go pitching matchup by pitching matchup. Monday should be advantage Cleveland. Tuesday is advantage Houston, and Wednesday should be advantage Houston, or a toss-up. Bullpen-wise, I guess we didn't really talk about injuries. McCullers and Odorizzi are both on the DL. It's hurt their depth, obviously. Jake Myers, who's supposed to battle for that catcher position, DL, and Taylor Jones, who I feel like has bounced around as kind of a infield type, is also on the DL. So not all that hurt. Ryan Presley's been good. Rafael Montero's been good. Hector Neris, who they signed, has been solid. Ryan Stanek, who I liked, but another one of those Arkansas pitchers. Each team's got an Arkansas pitcher in the bullpen. And, good old friend alert, Phil Maton, also in that pen. It's a good pen. I feel like pens are a bit of a push because Cleveland has an excellent pen as well. I'm still going to ride or die with the fact that I believe Cleveland's bullpen is very good. Maybe you don't agree with that, and I can get that to a degree, but it has been a very strong pen for the most part. It's an advantage to Houston. Yes, they had a 1-point advantage. The pitching matchups are advantage Cleveland, advantage Houston, and close to a push. Bullpens are even. But at the same time, one of these teams has won 27 games, and the other team has won not 27 games. What did I say earlier? They're at 17, like a 10-game difference. Houston's better able to put everything together, and when there are gaps, it's just because Cleveland has a truly elite player for the most part. Like catcher, okay. And we talked about the issue. Josh Naylor at first base because of what he has done. Jose Ramirez, it's like, okay, so they don't have Jose Ramirez, but they have the next best thing. Houston, Yuli Gurriel is one of their weakest players on offense, and he's almost league average. That's where this team is. Cleveland, when they lose like both those outfield spots, it's by a large margin, and that's why Houston is just, they're not a team with a lot of holes, not a team with a lot of injuries right now. They're also not a lot of team with prospect depth, so I'll be curious to see what happens because I don't know. They don't have the ability to really go out and trade for more. They don't have the ability to go out and add more. I will be very curious to see if they run into any injury issues, if they run into any depth issues, how they are as a team that will continue to get better because it's not a easy path when you don't have the pieces. We went a bit long, and we've had cats and children and all sorts of things interrupting the show, but I want to thank everyone for listening again. The YouTube numbers have been fantastic. We're at a little over 200 subscribers. Obviously, the goal is 1,000, so we can Montanize over there. You know what I mean. But every show is getting 100 watches, so I appreciate that. A lot of people on the network cannot say that. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed on YouTube, to everyone who listens to the podcast, downloads daily, does your part. And as I end every episode, go Guardians, go.